Russia is stunned. What was supposed to be an overwhelming aerial assault ended up being practically useless as Ukraine obliterated Russia's missile barrage in a matter of minutes. As Russian President Vladimir Putin's missiles disintegrated before his eyes, he's left asking a big question. Just what does he have to do to win the aerial battle in the Ukrainian skies? The answer is that he needs to do a lot more than he's doing right now, especially as Ukraine is showing that it's getting stronger by the day. Ukraine is breaking records and proving that it can use European-made aerial defenses just as well as the US-supplied systems on which it previously relied. On April 27, operators of a NASAMS air defense system delivered a stunning report about their most recent achievement. We shot down 11 cruise missiles in a single anti-aircraft engagement, which lasted no more than 2 minutes, claimed the NASAMS operators. Russian propagandists often blame our air defense, but this is a complete lie. If the AIM-120 AMRAAM missile doesn't hit its target, it self-destructs in the air. It doesn't possess the same explosive power as Russian ballistic missiles. There's a lot to unpack from this statement. On the Ukrainian achievement front, shooting down 11 missiles in 2 minutes may have just broken a record for the country's aerial defenses. It showcases that Ukraine has systems in place to take out Russia's missiles en masse, limiting Putin's ability to bombard Ukraine's cities and key infrastructure. But the mention of the AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles is also interesting, because Russia has claimed that this missile is the reason why Russia's aerial strikes are causing so many civilian casualties and infrastructure damage in Ukraine. Putin's logic is somewhat twisted when it comes to these missiles. Russia's propagandists seem to be claiming that the missiles the country fires aren't hitting Ukrainian civilian targets. Instead, Ukraine's use of the AIM-120 AMRAAMs is to blame. Those missiles are missing their targets, Russia suggests, leading to them touching down on Ukraine. Russia is trying to claim that Ukraine is accidentally attacking itself with its own missiles. Ukraine's mention of the AIM-120 AMRAAM's ability to explode in mid-air after missing a target reveals those claims to be false. Coming back to Ukraine's amazing defense, Kyrylo Peretyatko points out that Ukraine achieved something no other country has. We probably broke all records of other countries for reload speed, and we're ready to keep doing it constantly to defend our country as long as we have the missiles. Peretyatko said in a video when he announced the destruction of Russia's missile barrage. In one air defense battle, we shot down 11 cruise missiles. The operation lasted no more than 2 minutes. Peretyatko led the defense. He's the head of the unit that has already destroyed more than 150 aerial targets to date, most of them being Russian cruise missiles. Add 11 more to those numbers thanks to the April 27 obliteration. It's not known what missiles Ukraine managed to shoot down. What is known is the air defense system it used, the NASAMS. NASAMS, which stands for Norwegian Advanced Surface-to-Air Defense Missile System, is classified as a medium to long-range air defense system according to Army recognition. It was created as a joint project between Norway and the US. Developments or Norway's Kongsberg Defence work alongside US weapons manufacturer Raytheon to develop the system, which entered the Norwegian military in 2015. There are several versions of the air defense system. For instance, the NASAMS 2 upgraded the system's ground radar, making it easier to detect incoming threats. There's also the NASAMS 3 to consider. Introduced in April 2019, NASAMS 3 upgraded the system's fire distribution center and introduced a new ADX console. It also revealed tweaks to the launcher's Mk2 canisters, allowing NASAMS to fire AMRAAM-ER or extended range missiles and AIM-9X Sidewinder Block 2 missiles, in addition to the AIM-120 AMRAAMs Ukraine used to down the 11 Russian missiles. So how does NASAMS work? Each NASAMS comes with a trio multi-missile launchers, each of which can carry up to 6 missiles stored inside protective canisters that are ready to launch. NASAMS cover every job leading up to the launch. The system serves as a transportation vector for these missiles, as well as offering its operators the ability to aim and fire their munitions. It's also an intelligent launcher. NASAMS features a remote launcher that can be controlled from up to 15.5 miles away. That's vital. It means the system's operators can station themselves a safe distance away while still using NASAMS to take out incoming aerial threats. Should a Russian missile manage to strike the NASAMS, those operators can leave it behind while escaping to safe territory. The NASAMS is also fast and modular. A single launcher can rattle off all 6 of its missiles in a matter of seconds, with each of those missiles then hurtling toward a different target. Ukraine also has the option of netting up to 12 of these launchers together into a single NASAMS system, all controlled from a single point. Why is that important? This netting gives Ukraine the option of firing up to 72 missiles from one location, with each focusing on an individual target and being launchable within 15 seconds of an instruction being delivered. Of course, this speed and modularity wouldn't mean much if the NASAMS missiles weren't up to the job. Ukraine doesn't have to worry in that department. NASAMS' main missile is the previously mentioned AIM-120 AMRAAM. First deployed in September 1991, the AIM-120 is currently used by over 35 countries, including Ukraine, the U.S., several NATO allies, and even nations in the Asia-Pacific region and the Middle East. It's built to engage multiple aerial targets, ranging from enemy fighter jets to bombers and even cruise missiles. The latter is likely what Ukraine destroyed on April 27. As with the NASAMS, there are several variants of the AIM-120. The AIM-120A is the original production version of the missile and features solid fuel rocket production combined with a simple active radar homing system. The upgraded AIM-120B adds electronic software into the mix, offering the missile key defenses against Russia's electronic countermeasures. An inertial navigation system was also added to the missile, improving its ability to course correct in mid-air. With the AIM-120C comes an improved range and better maneuverability in the air. Later enhancements, up to the AIM-120C7, introduced even more improvements to the missile's range, guidance systems, and overall lethality. Speaking of lethality, every version of the AIM-120 is equipped with a high explosive blast fragmentation warhead weighing about 44 pounds. When launched, the missile can reach a top speed of Mach 4, which is more than fast enough to take out most aerial targets barring ballistic missiles. The most recent variant, the AIM-120D, has a range of up to 97 nautical miles, though most missiles Ukrainians will have at their disposal can travel around 50 to 60 nautical miles. It's an extremely powerful missile. Thanks to NASAMS, Ukraine can fill its skies with over 70 of them in a single engagement. NASAMS is also capable of firing extended-range AMRAAM missiles and the AIM-9X Sidewinder, as previously mentioned. That missile, which is manufactured by Raytheon, is typically an air-to-air missile loaded into fighter jets. NASAMS has been modified to fire it, meaning it gets access to a 186-pound missile that has an infrared homing system and a powerful annular blast fragmentation warhead. Officially, the AIM-9X's range and speed are classified. However, it's believed to be capable of reaching a top speed of Mach 2.5, according to Army recognition, and has a range that falls somewhere between 20 and 22 miles. The point here is that NASAMS gives Ukraine plenty of firepower options. On April 27, it used those options to full effect. Moving away from firepower, NASAMS' other major advantage comes from its mobility. The system's launchers are carried on trucks, typically the Scania 113H 6x6 truck in Norway, though it can also be transported via helicopter and the C-130 aircraft. Again, that's huge for Ukraine. This mobility means Ukraine can fly a NASAMS into whatever region needs it most, before using trucks to transport it to the perfect position to take out incoming Russian missiles. Add to all of this the NASAMS AN MPQ-64F1 Sentinel radar, which delivers 3D images of the launcher's surroundings and both infrared and electro-optic sensors, and you get an extremely accurate launcher. All of these features are controlled by a command post dubbed a Fire Distribution Center, which provides command, control, computers, communication, and intelligence all in a single package. Combine all of these features, and you get an incredibly versatile and accurate weapon. On April 27, Russia discovered just how well Ukraine can use its NASAMS to decimate incoming Russian missiles. But here's the most terrifying thing for Putin. Shooting down 11 Russian missiles in the space of 2 minutes was just the most impressive feat Ukraine achieved during a week where it obliterated hundreds of Russian missiles and drones. The Kyiv Independent says that the week leading up to April 28 saw Ukraine shoot down a staggering 442 Russian Shahed kamikaze drones, along with 230 other drones. On the missile front, Ukraine took out 31 of Russia's Kh-101 and Kh-55SM cruise missiles, along with 7 of the country's Iskander ballistic missiles, 6 Caliber cruise missiles, and 4 of Russia's Kh-59 and Kh-69 guided air launch missiles. Those figures offer some hints about the 11 missiles Ukraine destroyed with NASAMS. It's known that NASAMS AIM-120s can hit ballistic missiles, meaning that Iskander is out of the picture. The same goes for the hundreds of drones Ukraine shot down during the week, as Peretyatko was very clear about how Ukraine used NASAMS to take out 11 missiles. That leaves us with the cruise missiles, the Kh-101, the Kh-55SM, the Kh-69 and the Kh-59. Ukraine hasn't told us which of these missiles it destroyed with NASAMS. However, it doesn't really matter. All 4 carry plenty of destructive power, so taking out any of them is a big win for Ukraine. The Kh-101 in particular is a terrifying missile because it's capable of carrying both conventional warheads and nuclear warheads with yields of up to 20 kilotons. On the conventional side, Russia can equip the missile with penetrator, cluster, and high explosive munitions, all of which can travel up to 1,864 miles before striking their target. And given that a single Kh-101 warhead can weigh 992 pounds, the sheer destructive force either one of these missiles represents means taking it out is a priority for Ukraine whenever one is detected in the skies. That doesn't mean the other cruise missiles Russia unleashed over the past week are slouches. The Kh-55 is also capable of carrying conventional and nuclear warheads, with the former weighing around 900 pounds. On the nuclear front, a Kh-55 can pack a warhead with a yield of up to 250 kilotons, making it 10 times as dangerous as the Kh-101. However, Kh-55s are subsonic, meaning the AIM-120s and NASAMS fires can easily catch up to them, and they have a shorter range than the Kh-101. The Kh-69 and Kh-59 are also terrifying weapons. The former is also a subsonic weapon that is typically fired from a Russian fighter jet, such as a Su-30 or Su-35. It carries a warhead weighing up to 683 pounds and has a range of 248 miles. That's far shorter than the Kh-101 or the Kh-55, though that range doesn't prevent Russia from using the missile to attack Ukraine. Putin often commands his forces to launch missiles from just behind the front lines. The Kh-69 has more than enough range to hit many Ukrainian targets in that situation. The same goes for the Kh-59. Its 177-mile range means it's the weakest of the 4 cruise missiles in terms of the types of targets it's capable of striking. However, Russia can still launch these missiles from behind the front lines to cause damage. And given that the missile packs a similar explosive punch to a Kh-69, it's a good option for Putin to have. Perhaps that's the point. While it's not yet known which of these 4 types of missiles Ukraine destroyed in its NASAMS deployment, what's for certain is that all 4 are dangerous. It's possible Ukraine even shot down several of these different types of missiles. That puts a serious dent into Putin's long and short-range capabilities, which leads to another question. What does Ukraine's April 27 destruction of 11 Russian cruise missiles with NASAMS mean for the war? The first thing is that Ukraine has proven a point to Russia. Think about everything mentioned so far, about the sheer destructive force of the cruise missiles Russia is sending Ukraine's way. Even the weakest of them packs around 900 pounds of explosive force. Compare that to a Russian 152mm artillery shell, which contains around 14 pounds of explosives, and you see a stark difference. A single Kh-69 or Kh-59 is over 48 times as powerful as an artillery shell. Russia's stronger cruise missiles are up to 64 times as powerful. Add the potential for loading some of these missiles with nuclear warheads, and Russia's aerial assaults cause serious damage to Ukraine's cities and infrastructure. By using NASAMS to shoot 11 of these missiles out of the skies, Ukraine sent a message to Russia. It can target and take out these terrible missiles, limiting Putin's ability to damage its cities and infrastructure. What's more, Ukraine has more NASAMS and AIM-120 missiles ready to go. Peretyatko made that clear when he said that Ukraine was capable of pulling off feats like what was seen on April 27 constantly. Now, NASAMS aren't new in Ukraine. They've been in service since November 2022, when the US delivered the first batteries of the missile system. But Ukraine's destruction of 11 Russian missiles in 2 minutes demonstrates that it's mastered a defensive system that causes major problems for Putin. It all adds up to Russia's aerial threat being diminished. More of its cruise missiles will get shot out of the skies by NASAMS in the future, leaving Russia to increasingly rely on slow-moving drones and ballistic missiles. The latter are in short supply, with the former being easier targets for Ukraine's many other aerial defense systems. Make no mistake, Ukraine's mastery of NASAMS is a major problem for Putin. It also couldn't have come at a worse time for Russia's leader, as he focuses even more intently on aerial warfare. During the last couple of months, Putin has increasingly targeted civilian population centers in Ukraine. This was evident on April 24 when he launched a massive drone and missile attack against Kyiv, killing 12 and injuring at least 90 people, including children. Earlier in April, Putin launched a similar airstrike in Sumy, killing 34 and injuring 117. Russia's tactic appears to be to terrorize Ukraine's population as peace talks are ongoing, and he's doing it for a clear reason. Momentum is shifting in the Ukraine war. Though Russia now claims that it's fully retaken Kursk, which Ukraine counter-invaded in August 2024, its progress in Ukraine itself has slowed to a crawl. For instance, March 2025 saw it capture either 55 square miles or 78 square miles in Ukraine, depending on whether you believe figures from the UK's Ministry of Defence or the Institute for the Study of War. Either way, the numbers represent a massive decrease over the captures Russia posted even earlier in the year. For instance, January saw Putin's ground forces claim between 126 square miles and 165 square miles of Ukraine. It's managing less than half of that now, and that's a major issue for Putin. His ground forces are less effective than ever in Ukraine. That's a consequence of Russia burning through most of its best tanks and armoured vehicles, as well as a manpower crisis caused by its substantial losses during more than 3 years of war. As Russia becomes less effective on the ground, it's increasingly relying on aerial assaults to hurt Ukraine. It's been working, especially in Ukraine's cities. But now, Putin has to face up to the fact that Ukraine's aerial defences are growing stronger. April 27 proved that not only could Ukraine take out some key Russian missiles, but it could do it so quickly that few, if any, of Russia's missiles can break through if Ukraine can deploy a NASAMS in the right location at the right time. If Ukraine can get its hands on more of these air defense systems, Putin being forced to focus more intently on the aerial fight could end up causing major problems for Russia. As more of its missiles get shot out of the skies, Russia does less damage to Ukraine's defences. Less damage means Putin's already weakened ground forces are more vulnerable, resulting in even more death on the Russian side. Still, Putin might soothe himself with the thought that he has a chance of getting the US onto his side. He already managed it once in March, causing the US to temporarily suspend military aid to Ukraine. More recently, US President Donald Trump has proposed a peace plan that suggests the US may be willing to recognize annexed Crimea as Russian territory. All of these are good signs for Putin. They show he's able to influence US decision-making, potentially weakening Ukraine at a time when momentum seems to be turning into Kyiv's favor. Putin may think that he doesn't need to destroy Ukraine to take the country. By weakening US support, he might get what he wants before his military crumbles. Ukraine's brilliant use of NASAMS proves Putin can't rely on that strategy. Why? Because NASAMS is a European missile defense system. Granted, it was built with the help of the United States. However, NASAMS is Norwegian, and it proves that European weapons are just as capable of causing severe damage to Russia's ambitions, even if the US becomes less of a factor in the Ukraine war. Think of NASAMS as a symptom of Europe's wider awakening to the true threat that Russia poses. That awakening was the last thing that Putin wanted to see. As Russia's leader focuses on pulling US support away from Ukraine, Europe is stepping up to ensure Ukraine's forces can continue to defend themselves. This is clear from the latest volley of aid packages being announced throughout Europe for 2025. Norway is already providing NASAMS. Sweden says it's going to deliver $1.29 billion of aid, including powerful AT-4 anti-tank missile launchers, 1,400 TOW missiles, and over 1 million rounds of 12.7mm ammunition. Denmark, Sweden and the UK are combining to provide more howitzers and artillery shells to Ukraine. More drones are coming from European manufacturers such as Helsing, and the likes of the US, Denmark and even Canada are providing new and refurbished armoured vehicles to Ukraine. These are just samples of a Europe-wide effort to stop Putin's forces in their tracks. Ukraine's use of NASAMS shows us that Russia can't assume that the loss of the US as a Ukraine supporter, assuming that loss even happens, will lead to a Russian victory. Ukraine still has plenty of support from its European partners. NASAMS shows us that support packs a massive punch that's capable of preventing Putin from using the strategies he needs to take Ukraine. But what do you think about Ukraine's record-breaking NASAMS deployment? Are things gearing up to see even more European weapons make an impact in the Ukraine war? Will Ukraine use NASAMS to take out even more Russian missiles? Share your thoughts in the comment section, and remember to subscribe to the Military Show for more up-to-date information on the latest developments in the Ukraine war. We're an independent source of news about military conflicts all around the globe and greatly appreciate your support.